Hey 6th grade, it's time for us to get going on our next math lesson. So right now, I want you to pause the video so you can make sure you have all of your materials. You need your math binder that has your textbook pages and sheets of blank paper. You also need to make sure you have a pencil. So click pause, make sure you're prepared, and then go on ahead and click play. I also want to remind you to press pause and rewind if you need to hear the information again, or if you just need to catch up in your notes. You can watch these videos as many times as you need to, and no one will ever know. Unless, of course, you tell them, and then they're going to know. So, just like our last video, at the top of your page, you need to write Lesson 1.2, and then the title of this lesson is Compare and Order Things on a Number Line. And you want to make sure it looks just like what I have here at the top of my page. Lesson 1.2, Compare and Order Things on a Number Line. Next up, we have our learning objective. And yes, you need to make sure you get your learning objective written in your notes. Our learning objective for this video is I will use number lines to compare and order integers. I will use number lines to compare and order integers. And while you're writing all of this information in your notes, do make sure that you are writing neatly so that you can read these, because you are going to need to be able to use your notes when it comes time to study for a quiz or a test. Lucky for you guys this time, there is only one vocabulary word for this lesson, and yes, you need to make sure you get it in your notes. Our vocabulary word for this lesson is inequality. And an inequality is a mathematical sentence that shows the relationship between quantities that are not equal. So I'm going to pause that, write it down in my notes, and then you can copy that. Alright, here's our definition written for inequality. An inequality is a mathematical sentence that shows the relationship between two quantities is not equal. And kiddos, since we're going to be learning about inequalities, this would be a good time for us to review our inequality symbols. Just real quick, because I know you guys have covered them in elementary. But do make sure that you get these in your notes. We have less than, and we have greater than. Whoops, probably got to finish that one first, huh? Now we'll start on greater than. Make sure you get that written in your notes. Next up, we need to get out our textbook pages, and we are going to turn to page 14, where it says Build Your Understanding at the top of the page. And we're going to start with number 1. Whoops, let me pull that down a little bit. Alright, so build understanding. The table below shows the elevations above or below sea level of several lakes. Sea level is considered to be an elevation of 0 feet. And here we have Belden Lake, Forest, Springbrook, Western, and Pleasant Lakes with their various elevations. A couple of them are negative, 3 of them are positive. So for question A, it asks us, how could you use a horizontal number line to compare the elevations? And a horizontal line is the kind that goes from left to right, just like when you look out across the horizon. So how could you use a horizontal number line to compare the elevations of these lakes up here? Pause the video and write in your own answer. What you think? For my answer to question A, I wrote, to answer the question, how could you use a horizontal number line to compare elevations? I wrote that I could graph each elevation as an integer and compare the locations of each number. So I can graph each of those negative and positive numbers, and then I can look to see where each of those numbers are located on the number line. Question B, what happens to the elevations as you move to the right on the number line? Write your own answer in the blank. What happens to the elevations as you move to your right on the number line? When you move to the right on the number line, our numbers the value of them increases. So I put that the elevations increase because I know that the more we go to the right, the larger the numbers get, and the bigger something gets. Question C, what happens to the elevations as you move to the left on the number line? Pause it and write your answer to that in the blank. So I'm going to put in the blank that the elevations decrease as we move to the left. All right. Question D is asking us, which lake is at a lower elevation? Springbrook Lake or Forest Lake? Explain your reasoning. So here we have the elevation of Springbrook Lake and, Forest Lake. Ooh. So which lake is at a lower elevation? And we need to explain our reasoning. Well, I would say Springbrook Lake because it's a negative number and it's moved farther away from 0. And as you move left on your number line, elevations decrease. So I'm going to go with Springbrook Lake. So there we go. I have Springbrook Lake, and how I explained it was by saying as you move to the left on a number line, the elevation decreases. Question E, it's asking us which lake is at a higher elevation, Belden Lake or Springbrook Lake? Explain your reasoning. So Belden Lake is at negative 18.5 feet, and Springbrook Lake is at negative 75.2 feet. Pause the video and write your answer in the blank. Which lake do you think is at a higher higher elevation, and explain your reasoning? I'm going to say that Belden Lake is at the higher elevation because as it's to the right of the elevation of Springbrook Lake, and as you move to the right on a number line, your elevations will increase. All right. So Belden Lake, because negative 18.5 is to the right of negative 75.2 on the number line. Question F is asking us, how can you use a number line to order the elevations? Go on ahead and think about that. You can pause the video and draw your own number line to see how you would use it to order the elevations given in the table up above. So for F, I wrote my answer to say that I could graph the elevations on the number line, and then I could, use a separate sheet of paper or my textbook or whatever to write the elevations in the order they appear on my number line, and I need to remember to write them in order from left to right. If you need to pause this to get, add anything to your own information, go for it. Otherwise, we're going to move on to page 15. So at the top of page 15, it says, Deshaun, Chris, Tanya, and Austin play a game. Each turn, a player can lose a point or win a point. At the end of the game, the scores are shown. And here's our table showing us the final scores these kids had. It says, graph the scores on the number line. So click pause real quick so that you can graph the 4 scores of these different kids. All right, when I graphed the kids' scores on my own number line, I went on ahead and wrote their names above it just so I would know who I was looking at and who we were talking about and all that. So question B asks us, is Deshaun's or Tanya's score greater? Explain how you know. Well, Tanya's down here at -5. Deshaun is up here at +2. And I know that as we move from left to right on the number line, that the value increases. So I'm going to say that Deshaun's score is greater than Tanya's because it's to the right of Tanya's score on the number line. All right, there we go. There's my answer for question B. Deshaun's score is greater than Tanya's because his score is to the right of Tanya's. Question C. Is Chris's score greater than Tanya's? Explain how you use the number line to compare the numbers. Well, Tanya's at -5. Chris is to the right of Tanya's score at -4. So, what do you think? Is his score greater than Tanya's? And how do you know that? Explain it. Pause the video so you can do that. And there's my answer. Chris's score is greater than Tanya's because it is to the right of her score on the number line. And his might only be over to the right by one number, but it's still greater. Still to the right. So, question D. Sorry. From left to right, do the values on the number line increase or decrease? And explain. How do you know that? Pause the video so you can think on that and explain how you know if the values increase or decrease when we move left to right. Alright, for question D, from left to right, do the values on the number line increase or decrease? Explain. I wrote that the numbers on the left are less than the numbers on the right. So the numbers increase as we move from left to right. And then question E, the very last one. Use the number line to write the scores in order from least to greatest. How did you find the correct order? Go on ahead and start on the, well, okay, I'm not going to give you that clue. But pause your video so that you can use the number line to write the scores from least to greatest, and then explain how you found that correct order. Okay, so to answer question E, I started with my number line up here at the top. I started with the score that was the farthest to the left, and then I just moved to the right and wrote down the kids' names in order. So down here below, I have Tanya is the least. She had -5 points. Chris came in next with -4 points. Then we had Deshawn with 2 points and Austin with 3 points. And the way that I explained how I put my numbers in the correct order is I just said I started with the score that was farthest to the left and I moved to the right on the number line. So make sure you have all of this completed and filled in. And then when you are done with this video, I want you to hop onto our HMH Math website so that you can complete and submit Check Understanding. I just want to, once again, be able to see if you understand what we've covered in the video, in our lesson today, and make sure you submit it when you are done. That way you're really done, and it's really turned in, and you can get your score, and you don't have to worry about it anymore. All right? I'll see you guys later.